Deep in a remote Afghan province, a criminal gang seized 2 female aid workers. The kidnappers make extensive demands and threaten to sell them to the Taliban.
That's always the worry. There is little precedent for actually getting anyone back.
To free them, a combined team of the 2 finest special forces in the world is mobilized. Britain's SAS and the US Navy SEALs.
A hostage rescue, a SEAL holds dear to his heart. They risk their lives to go save a life.
But hostage rescues are difficult and dangerous. Mistakes will be fatal.
This ain't no computer game, this is for real.
Operation Jubilee is the true story of how the best planned and executed one of their most challenging missions. In Afghanistan's most remote northerly province, Badakhshan, 2 aid workers are traveling with their Afghan guides to visit a clinic and provide medical assistance. 28-year-old Helen Johnston is a British nutritionist and graduate of the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine.
Helen Johnston stated before she went, actually, that was what she wanted to do. She wanted to teach mothers, young mothers, how to look after their children properly.
With her is 26-year-old Kenyan health worker, Morgawe or Ure. Both women work for the Swiss-based charity MedAir. They aim to address basic issues of healthcare, malnutrition, and sanitation in what is often considered one of the poorest, most deprived areas in the world.
Badakhshan is an extremely poor region with an extremely high child mortality rate, which is one of the reasons why NGOs go there to try and reduce that. There are major problems getting food in during the winter. If you're going to work there, you really have to have an understanding of what you're getting yourself into.
Until now, Badakhshan has been considered relatively safe. The Taliban aren't active in the area. Attacks are rare. Helen and her colleagues think they'll be okay. But Afghanistan is a dangerous and unpredictable country.
Everyone in Afghanistan's got a gun. I mean, these guys are full of smiles. I mean, they could smile for the world. Big cheesy grin, and you think, oh, well, I'm okay here now. You know, they're not going to do anything. Doesn't mean to say they're not going to cut your head off.
As Helen and Morgawe head up into the mountains, what they don't realize is that they're being watched.
The one thing when you're a Westerner operating on your own in a place like Afghanistan is that you become a target simply because of the perception that you may have money. If you've got $400 or $500 in cash, you know, that's 5 or 6 years' salary in some parts of Afghanistan.
It's mind-blowing. I don't think they understand the risks involved.
Stop! Stop! Up there!
On a remote hillside road, they are ambushed by a well-armed gang. They steal cameras, mobile phones, laptops, and wallets. At this stage, Helen and her colleagues have no idea who has attacked them or what will become of them. Are they bandits, Taliban, or even Al-Qaeda? This is the beginning of a terrifying ordeal. Within days, the kidnappers make contact with the Afghan government and release a video of demands.
We have captured 2 Western women. We are holding them ransom. Our price is $11 million.
They plucked this figure out the air. We want $11 million, and we want some of our colleagues who are banged up in prison in Kabul, we want those guys released.
To meet our demands, these women will be lost.
So that's their negotiating position. Otherwise, we will kill the hostages.
You can never find us. We are well hidden.
So from their point of view, you know, that's a very strong position. We're hidden away in Badakhshan. There are no security forces anywhere near us. We're tucked away in a valley. No one's ever going to find us.
The video does reveal some good news. The kidnappers aren't political. They're not Al-Qaeda or Taliban, just bandits out to further their own interests.
When you think about it, this was a group that had an agenda. They wanted to get money, yes, but they also wanted to get members of their own group out of prison.
The gang are a mixture of local drug runners and criminals, led by a known brigand, Abdul Ahad Mujahir.
In a society which is as poor as Badakhshan, young men often gravitate to the money that insurgent gangs can provide. And often, what we would regard as crime, smuggling, trafficking, what they regard as simply the ancient ways of their province.
The gangs don't go around with a specific label. There are coalitions of interest, and they are very often just brigands and bandits who are there for human flesh. They're there to trade in human flesh because it's more valuable than stealing sheep.
Four days later, news of the kidnapping reaches the British government.
Back in the UK, this message would have come through the Foreign Office to number 10. We've got a hostage. An aid worker has gone missing. This is pretty much world news.
The British have a limited number of options. 1, pay the money. But Britain doesn't negotiate with terrorists. 2, hope the situation can be resolved by the Afghan authorities. Unlikely. Or 3, send in the troops. This is the option they go for. The operation is passed on to the International Security Assistance Force. 49 countries make up NATO-led ISAF, and they oversee all military operations in Afghanistan. At their Kabul headquarters, rescuing the hostages becomes a priority mission.
The picking of the teams and putting them on standby will start very, very quickly, once the balloon goes up, within 2 or 3 hours.
You've got the commander ISAF, who's an American at the time, General John Allen. You've got Adrian Bradshaw, ex-SAS, who's the deputy commander of ISAF. And he's probably saying, you know what, let the SAS get her out. You know, it's good for everybody. It's good for the country, it's good for the operation, and there are a few better at rescuing hostages than the SAS.
The planners begin by asking basic questions.
Where was that person last seen? What are the enemy forces surrounding that person? Where is that location? How is our best way to get from where we are now to that location? And can we expect enemy resistance? All these factors go through the planner's mind in planning a hostage rescue.
At the back of their minds is the fact that hostage extractions are notoriously difficult, as Britain knows to her cost. The British are haunted by an event that happened 2 years earlier. The death of British aid worker Linda Morgawe.
Well, the incident with Linda was very, very unfortunate, very sad. First time it's happened in our history.
Morgawe was snatched by the Taliban in almost identical circumstances. Fearing for her life, the British authorized a rescue mission conducted by US Special Forces. But it went terribly wrong.
There's no handbook that you can pull down and says, oh, how to rescue a hostage. Duh, that's how we do it.
When the fragmentation was thrown, it wasn't realized that Linda was there nearby on the ground. And it was a terrible, terrible accident.
The 6 Taliban holding Linda Morgawe were killed, but so was she, dying from shrapnel wounds inflicted by a fragmentation grenade.
It was a valiant and courageous effort by the forces to rescue Linda, and of course you can imagine that special forces with such a task only want one outcome, and that is to save the hostage who was killed in the end by her captors.
I can absolutely understand how it would have happened. I mean, it was actually, just something that could happen, and it's part of war, unfortunately. It's just part of war.
In Kabul, Generals Allen and Bradshaw start putting together an operational plan.
Any military operation nowadays is defined by what's called the 3 Fs. Find, that's location. Fixing, making sure that the people in that location are there when you get there. And finish, which is the conduct of the operation itself, and often meaning, of course, kill. Those are the 3 Fs.
Initially, the mission planners focus on the first F, finding the gang.
Well, of course, you need the location of where they're being held. You need strength of the enemy, what their daily routine is, you need, and you need luck.
Finding the rough location of the hostages proves straightforward. The kidnappers have been careless.
It's important to remember, I think, that mobile phones are nothing more than little radios. Now, in Afghanistan, everybody has a mobile phone.
By using their mobiles in negotiations, the kidnappers have given themselves away. British intelligence have intercepted the calls. Using a combination of GPS and cell network triangulation, it is relatively easy to establish a rough location. From this information, they deduce the kidnappers are somewhere within a deep cave complex in the vast Koh-i-Laram forest in northwest Badakhshan. Immediately, they realize this presents a complication. Even if they can find them, caves can be very difficult to assault.
We have known floor plans and unknown floor plans. For a cave, you could pretty much assume it was an unknown floor plan, not knowing how deep that was going to go.
The rescuers need more detailed information. They need to pinpoint the exact location of the kidnappers to within a few hundred feet. So they launch their unmanned aerial vehicles, drones.
Once you've identified, you've found the hostages, you need to establish the environment they're in. That's where satellite surveillance, drone surveillance will come in.
Flown remotely by operators in California, these spies in the sky can spot the kidnappers without being detected. Using infrared cameras with digitally enhanced zoom lenses, they can identify the heat signature of a human body from an altitude of 3 kilometers.
They can see everything. They can see what weapons they've got, what guards they've got. They can see the approaches. They can see the routine of the guards. They can see where people are being split up.
A drone is much stealthier than a helo. A helo is loud, it's noisy, it's big. It can be shot out of the sky. A drone can get in there, get across over the mountain pass, come back with the information our troops need to conduct an op. Drones are beautiful.
Thanks to the unseen drone, the exact location of the hostages is pinpointed. They now keep the kidnappers under 24-hour surveillance. They can see that the gang are well armed with AK-47 assault rifles, rocket-propelled grenades, and a Russian belt-fed machine gun, capable of shooting down helicopters.
So, very short period of time, they know precisely who they're dealing with, what their weapons are, what the threat they pose is, and where they're located.
Over the next few days, the Joint Special Forces Group watched the kidnappers' activities on real-time video, transmitted via satellite from the drone, and used this information to plan details of the rescue. Unaware they are being watched, the kidnappers continue negotiations. This is all part of the ISAF plan.
It is essential to negotiate. It is essential to get the go-betweens talking, because by getting the go-betweens talking, you begin to profile the principal players.
They would have been sold a line that, yes, we're negotiating. Yes, we will give you everything you want. Yes, we will release the guy from prison. Yes, we will give you your $11 million. It's coming in a black suitcase. What denomination do you want? Trying to develop some sort of rapport with them so that they feel comfortable, that the last thing they think is going to happen is that someone's going to boot the door down and shoot them in the face.
From their extensive military resources, ISAF commanders Generals John Allen and Adrian Bradshaw select who to send on the mission.
It would be expected, almost as a matter of etiquette and protocol, that the Brits would be asked if they could lead this, what help do they need, and they would work it from there.
If Britain is taking the lead, this can mean only one thing. This will be a job for the world-famous SAS. The Special Air Service is the elite special forces and counter-terrorism unit of the British Army. Once a largely secretive organisation, they dramatically came to the attention of the world in 1980.
For 40 years, the Special Air Service Regiment maintained the finest hostage rescue team in the world, and we literally saw their skills at work in the famous Iran embassy siege.
Everybody sees the pictures of the Iranian embassy back in the early 80s, and a black kit, the flashbangs going off, and everyone being pulled out alive apart from the terrorists. Kind of sort of did the SES out of a business for a long period, because they were so good that terrorists didn't fancy London to go and pick a fight with.
Often operating in superbly trained four-man units, the SAS prides itself on its ability to fight unsupported anywhere in the world.
You guys one pair, and real move is another!
Experts in stealth and surprise, their surveillance skills help them monitor, infiltrate and execute targets with deadly efficiency.
Why the SAS? Because if the shit hits the fan and it goes tits up, then they're probably the best guys to deal with a situation like that. You know, they ain't going to be fluffy about things. They're going to get on with the mission and sort it.
The SAS were deployed to Afghanistan in 2001 and have been heavily active in countless covert missions ever since. Widely regarded as the best of their kind, they are the model for countless special forces across the world, teaching and training them in the techniques that have made the regiment famous.
CQB, close quarter battle. It requires an intense type of training, live ammunition, live training in small confined rooms. And you have to be extremely careful. The blokes have to be totally switched on as live rounds are flying all over the place.
But the SAS aren't the only elite force in Afghanistan on hand to rescue Helen and Morgawe. America has an impressive range of special forces, but one unit really stands out.
You know, some people say SEAL Team 6 are the best of the best.
Since arriving in Afghanistan, the SEALs have operated as a special reconnaissance unit, often out in the field for up to 45 days at a time. They have killed over 200 Taliban fighters and destroyed tens of thousands of pounds of weapons and ordnance. Key operatives in the war on terror, SEAL Team 6's most famous mission was assassinating the world's most wanted man.
Most recently, of course, SEALs are known to have killed bin Laden. They got in a helicopter, flew across the border, went into Abbottabad. Shortly after, came back with bin Laden in a body bag.
With access to the world's best weapons, best communications, and best aircraft, they are America's ultimate high-tech killing machine.
You know, a lot of people ask, what makes a Navy SEAL? And it's hard to really put your finger on it. The main thing that SEALs have in common is they don't quit. No matter how hard it is, they don't quit. You have to be willing to put your country and the mission in front of everything.
Operating as part of the US Navy, this elite unit, trained to operate on sea, air, and land, are America's 911 call-out. SEALs are hand-picked after years of intensive screening and a grueling selection process. Trained in the use of all weapons systems. In 1 year, SEAL Team 6 fired more rounds than the entire US Marine Corps ammunition allowance. They make for perfect partners with the SAS on a rescue mission of this complexity.
SEAL Team 6 and the SAS complement each other in many, many ways. For one, we cross-trained with the SAS for years. We love working with the SAS. We're the same mindset. We have the same attitude when it comes to training and battle.
Just 6 days after the aid workers are abducted, a combined force comprising 28 members of the SAS and an equal number of US Navy SEALs fly up to Badakhshan and establish themselves in a forward operating base around 30 minutes flying time from the hostages' location.
A hostage rescue, a SEAL holds dear to his heart. They risk their lives to go save a life. Now, if it's an innocent woman, if it's children, if it's aid workers, it doesn't matter. So it is a very, very dangerous mission. But it's what we thrive on doing.
Whilst waiting for the mission to be green-lit, the SAS and SEALs begin planning how to take out the kidnappers.
You have to do rehearsals. Every man has to know the job. So you do a walkthrough rehearsal, you have a sand model, it could be back in the ops room with full facilities, or it could be out in the field somewhere in the desert, and you have to make do with bits of rock, twigs.
It may all seem very low-tech, but this process is essential in planning a mission.
It's to make you familiar with the method of infiltration, to know where your mate's going to be, to know where the other group's going to be. Quick, snap, down, bang. See, your mind is aware of where everybody else is.
A key problem is how to get to the hostages without being detected. As the caves are in such a remote region, troops will need to be inserted by helicopter. But helicopters make a lot of noise. If the kidnappers hear them, the hostages will be killed.
That's all we got, all right?
To maintain the element of surprise, they must land 2 miles from the caves and then march to their objective. But this is also problematic. Identifying possible landing sites is a tough task given the nature of the terrain, highly mountainous and thick with forest. Besides rehearsing the physical elements of the mission, they don't want to accidentally kill the captives. So they spend hours memorizing friend from foe.
Tactical operations centers have a board of hostages in the country, known terrorists on the hit list, and the SEALs will come in and they look at this every day. They memorize what these hostages look like. They know what the terrorists look like, and they're waiting for the green light to get one of these missions.
All that remains is the go-ahead. Seven days after being captured, one of the drones monitoring the hostages' position gleans vital new intel. Helen and Morgawe have been separated from their Afghan guides. The two groups are now being held in separate caves in different locations, over a mile apart. The rescuers will need to adapt their plan and assault 2 targets at the same time. The news gets worse. British intelligence intercept a conversation between the kidnappers and the Taliban.
For a criminal organisation to operate in Afghanistan, it's probably going to rub shoulders at some stage with the Taliban.
From the intercepts, they learn that the kidnappers have made contact with the Taliban and are planning to do a deal.
They may have realised they could sell the hostage on to the Taliban. The Taliban might be interested in that because they could sell the hostage on to Al-Qaeda. And that's always the worry. There is little precedent for actually getting anyone back. Al-Qaeda are going to execute them and going to make a big deal of it.
There is now a very real threat to the women's lives. Analysts expect the kidnappers to do the deal with the Taliban within 24 hours.
There are certain trigger points in operations like one of these will be an imminent handover or imminent killing. In this case, an intercept came in to the effect that a Taliban unit had asked for a show of intent, kill one of the hostages and hand the other one over.
For the American commander of ISAF, General John Allen, this is a game-changer moment.
A game changer would be in this situation that we think the hostage is going to be moved to another location or sold or crossing a border that we can't get into that country. That could mean, let's speed up. We got to get on the helos right away. We got to get to that target right away. If you can still make the timeline before the person's moved, you can save a life.
General Allen relays the information to London, advising that the mission be put into effect immediately.
It was at that point that things started to move very, very quickly. And I think within a matter of hours, the Prime Minister was told that they needed to launch a military operation very quickly to recover the hostages. Otherwise, there was a very strong risk that one of them would have been killed.
The mission is greenlit. It's all go. Now the nuts and bolts of the operation are finalized.
As far as the execution of the operation goes, you would have real-time intelligence on the ground from photography, aerial photography. You would know their routine. You would know the weapons. You probably know who the commander was.
The 70-strong rescue force are put on high alert and run through final checks. They know what they're up against and just how tough this mission will be. Any errors could be catastrophic.
Afghanistan is very, very difficult. We're actually going in the backyard of the enemy. When it comes to taking our helos through those mountain passes, it really just takes one lucky shooter with a shoulder-fired weapon, and he can knock out a helicopter out of the sky.
The SEAL and SAS commanders break the plan down into stages. The helicopter landing zone is 2 miles from the caves. This should be far enough away to mask the engine noise and maintain the element of surprise. The troops will then split into 2 assault forces and march through the steep wooded valleys at night to their objectives. The SAS will target the cave where kidnappers are believed to be guarding Miss Johnston and her Kenyan colleague.
So I have a question, sir.
SEAL Team 6 will advance on a separate cave complex where kidnappers are believed to be holding the guides. On arrival, both units will storm the caves, neutralize the kidnappers, and secure the hostages. Finally, hostages and troops will evacuate by the same entry route and fly by helicopter back to base. The whole mission is planned in minute-by-minute detail.
The special forces involved in the operations, the American and the British, would have had a thorough understanding of the ground. They would have known their point of entry, point of exit, their operation on the objective. They would have known the timings, the weather, the wind state, everything. As much intelligence as possible. They would have had a thorough understanding of exactly what they wanted, minute by minute, step by step, from the beginning of the operation to the actual rescue and extraction.
Four hours before takeoff, the Special Forces begin kitting up. Limited helicopter space and the long march ahead of them mean they can only take the bare essentials.
They try to stay light. They try not to carry a lot of gear because it slows you down. You have a helmet on, probably with a camera. You've got a mic so you can talk on the radio. You've got your goggles because of wind blast and the helo. You've got body armor, hopefully, front and back. You got a sidearm, which is a secondary weapon. It's a pistol. It's usually a 9mm pistol. And you got your assault weapon. It could be an AK, it could be an M4, it might be a submachine gun.
H-hour. The launch time for the operation is set for 5 p.m. local time on Friday the 1st of June. As the light begins to fade, MH-60L Black Hawk helicopters wait on the flight line.
You're approaching the chopper. Now, any soldier will tell you this that's been on ops, the smell of avgas that's burnt by the helicopter instills a bit of sort of seriousness into the whole situation, okay? This ain't no computer game, this is for real.
The pilots crank up their engines and the combined SAS Navy SEAL assault units board.
So you board the helicopter, you're constantly checking your weapon, making sure that the magazine is still there, you're checking your pouches on your webbing and everything. And, you know, some people have a nervous twitch and, you know, other people don't. It's just the way they deal with it. You're thinking about what you have to do if you have a malfunction. You know, it's a drill that you do in your head.
The flight to the landing zone takes just 30 minutes. By landing 2 miles from the caves, the approaching helicopters aren't heard by the kidnappers. The first troops on the ground secure the HLS helicopter landing site at the top of a rocky valley. They then coordinate the arrival of the remaining Black Hawks. The troops disembark. Then the helicopters fly off into the night.
And then there's silence. There's absolute silence. And then the sweat is then mixed with this cold air, and then you realise that, you know, this is it, this is it.
The assault force now splits up and heads off to the 2 different objectives. The SAS will head for the cave containing the aid workers. The Navy SEALs to the cave containing the guides. It is a 2-mile march across rough terrain, covered in dense forest, to their assault positions around the caves.
You go into your routine because you've rehearsed it. You know what to expect, and then once everything's set and you believe there's no enemy about, you move off, all silent, and you move off to a point that you already know where it is, and that's the start line.
For Special Forces, marching 2 miles is nothing. The challenge is keeping it quiet.
To do a 2-mile trek in the woods at night silently takes a long time. Everybody scans, looks around, walks, takes a couple of steps, paying a lot more attention to how they're stepping and where they're stepping, because you can't give your position away because you've blown your element of surprise.
In their Kabul operations room, General Allen and his British deputy, Lieutenant General Adrian Bradshaw, are watching the events, maintaining full situation awareness through images relayed via satellite from the soldiers' helmet cameras.
Absolutely everything is recorded, so they see what the soldiers see. They're following through the battle, and it's all coming back. So it's a very, very tense operation.
They can see the SAS arrive at their location and stake out the cave. 3 miles away, they watch as SEAL Team 6 get into position. Outside the cave, they believe the guides to be held in.
The longer a team's been together, the less communication has to take place. Hand signals are fine, but if it's pitch black at night, you can't see the hand signals. Once you get really close up and you're getting ready, what we call the stack, to attack, sometimes there's squeezes. Means I'm ready.
Just before they move in, there is time for one final kit check.
The more experience you have, it does help because you know what you're getting into. Your confidence is up high. Generally with me, I just used to get on with it. Every soldier wants that combat experience. It's the pinnacle of your career.
At ISAF headquarters, Lieutenant General Bradshaw waits for both teams to get into position. It is vital that both attacks are coordinated. Surprise is key. Only when he is certain both teams are ready does he give the order to assault. First, throw in the flashbang grenades.
We use those to shock the occupants of that building or that cave.
Then, storm the caves.
He'll say, move. His partner will say, moving. Everything is quick and concise. You go in there and you flood that area. And it's all eyes, and you are looking for threats. You have people looking right, people looking left, people looking at the center of the cave.
Go left, go right!
In 2 seconds, that whole cave, that initial entry, is covered by at least 4 shooters.
In just minutes, it is all over.
What happens right after a mission like that is you look around, a signal might be tap yourself on the head with a thumbs up. It means I'm okay, I have all my gear, I have all my weapon, I have my ammo, I have enough ammo to get out of here.
The dead kidnappers are searched for intelligence and weapons, but they don't find any hostages. Back in the ops room, the commanders are alarmed. Are they too late? Have the hostages been moved? Or worse, are they dead? The focus now shifts to the second cave. Everything will now depend on what the SAS find there.
So once you're on the start line and the signal's then given to go off, and then you're moving off, and then time slows down.
As the SAS move in, they are spotted by the kidnappers. They respond with a barrage of shots.
The element of surprise is gone since the first trigger's been pulled, and then it's speed, aggression and surprise. You get in there, you mix it with them, you knock them down. Basically, there is a routine and a rhythm, and it tends to fit into place. People know when the shit hits the fan, it goes, no plan. Then you go in, you're in full motion then. Everything is just heightened to such a point whereby you don't know you're killing, you're just doing it, and you know you're killing the right target.
Powerless to intervene, in the ops room, commanders nervously watch their screens. Are the aid workers still alive? Only time will tell.
You clear your room, then you move on to the next. You don't know, like most battles really, that you don't know the outcome until it's finished.
In the cave, all the kidnappers are killed. Now the SAS can search for the hostages. Helen and Morgawe are found, alive and well, along with their guides. After giving the captives a quick checkup, they are dragged out of the cave. Now they all need to get home safely. But the mission is still far from over.
Just because you've got the hostage and you've killed these sons of bitches, there could be another load coming up around the corner. So you've still got to be switched on.
Barefoot, the hostages are carried by the soldiers the entire 2 miles back to the helicopter landing site before flying back to Kabul.
You don't stay on target too quick, you get the hell out of there. Okay, you exfil, you get out there rapid. Okay, you grab as much intelligence off the dead as you can, and then you trash it all.
Within hours, they are approaching ISAF headquarters in Kabul.
It's really not till you land and get home and get the hostage off safely to the docks or the medical crew or the intel folks can you really take a deep breath. The op's not over till you get home.
After 12 terrifying days, the hostages' ordeal is over. This is a textbook operation. Hostages freed, all the kidnappers eliminated, and no members of the Special Forces teams have been hurt. In the early hours of the morning, Downing Street is informed that the rescue mission has been a complete success. British Prime Minister David Cameron personally speaks by telephone to the soldiers involved in the mission, praising their courage and thanking them for achieving such a successful outcome.
You know, there's nothing as good as a special forces operation working successfully that you can brag about.
Later in the morning outside 10 Downing Street, he announces the success of the mission to the world's press.
It was an extraordinary, brave, breathtaking even operation that our troops had to carry out, and I pay tribute to their incredible skill and dedication. I also pay tribute to the American troops who took part in a related operation.
In Kabul, for the combined special forces returning back to base, everything has gone perfectly.
Politically and militarily, it was a textbook operation. Couldn't have gone any better.
You know, a lot of people who might think, well, that's how it's supposed to happen. But to make all the pieces connect and all that training and all the things that could have gone wrong, for them to come out with a perfect report, hostages okay, SEALs okay, terrorists dead, it's a super big achievement.
Operation Jubilee is an outstanding example of a complex mission, flawlessly executed at every phase. From finding the hostages and gathering intel, to prepping the teams and insertion into the locations, before killing the kidnappers and rescuing the aid workers.
This whole mission is a testament to professionalism of the hostage rescue teams, both the British and in this case the Americans. It's a testament to the command structures and the intelligence structures involved, to the experience gained over 10 years in terrain like this. So a real textbook case of cooperation and professionalism.
Although the names of those involved will never be revealed, their contribution is in the best traditions of the service and builds on the reputation and mystique of the finest special forces in the world.
The narrative to this whole story, as well as getting the hostages back, is don't mess with the British. Don't kidnap our people, because this is what's going to happen to you.